Enter the Eckrich $1 million challenge. One lucky winner will have the chance to throw for $1 million at the 2017 College Football Playoff National Championship game. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. Sweepstakes ends December 11th, 2016. Contest rules online.
SeatGeek is the smartest, easiest way to find tickets for the football games you want to see up close and in person this season. There's nothing like being in the stadium for the biggest plays of the year, and with SeatGeek, it's never been easier to get the guaranteed seats you want for a great value. With SeatGeek, you always get the best deal on every ticket because SeatGeek price compares for you by searching multiple ticket sites. Prices can vary depending on where you shop, but SeatGeek will always find you the lowest available price. And SeatGeek wants to help you get the most bang for your buck. That's why every ticket on SeatGeek is given a grade based on value. You'll immediately see any underpriced seats and be able to find the best deal to fit your budget. Plus, every ticket you buy on SeatGeek is backed by their 100% guarantee, so you can shop for tickets on SeatGeek with confidence. Best of all, my listeners get a $20 rebate off their first SeatGeek purchase. To get your $20 rebate on tickets, download the SeatGeek app, go to the Settings tab, and click Add a Promo Code. Enter promo code Mike. SeatGeek will send you $20 after you've made your first ticket purchase. Download the SeatGeek app and enter the promo code Mike today.
This is Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
That is the ball game. The Seahawks have won in New England. What a comeback. Man, oh man alive.
Jerry Jones sticking with the hot hand, the rookie quarterback Dak Prescott.
The longer he plays like this, the more we have a chance to have another win.
I never said I didn't vote, which you all, now that's like the big news story all over the country.
Now, here's Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line on a Monday. And what a storyline, Golic, after an endlessly entertaining weekend of sports, which featured a college Saturday unlike anything we've seen in 30 years, and an NFL day filled with moments you could hardly believe happened. It all culminates in a very familiar place, Seattle and New England and the 1-yard line. Only this time, Tom Brady had the football. Golic, great drama, middle of the night in Foxborough.
Wow, I tell you what, I thought for sure that New England was going to score. Tom Brady, as we'll get into, a couple of quarterback sneaks in those 4 plays. He's usually pretty money with his quarterback sneaks, but do nothing but give Seattle. And let me tell you, as a former defensive player, there is nothing like a goal line stand. Nothing like a goal line stand. I remember we had one against the Cardinals one time at the Vet where we were offside 3 times, so there were actually 7 plays that we stopped them inside the 3-yard line. And it is one of the greatest feelings. That is as close to a man-on-man, just nothing fancy type of a situation, and it wasn't. It was basically 3 runs, 2 quarterback sneaks, Garrett Blount up the middle, and then you try a fade to Gronkowski. There was no trickeration at all. That was just 2 really good teams, 2 great teams going at it from the 1-yard line, and Seattle got the best of them. That was fun to watch because you wondered if New England would try something different, and quite honestly, you weren't shocked when they didn't, when they just went with basic plays saying we should be able to get this yard, and Seattle said not this time.
Yeah, so as was the case in the Super Bowl and the circumstances reversed, Seattle failing to score that time, the world will forever question the play calling.
Yes, yep.
This time New England tried to do it a variety of different ways. As you mentioned, they try to sneak it. There's a play where there's a miss. I don't know if he mishandled the snap.
Well, what he said, so there was a quarterback sneak that gained basically a yard. LeGarrette Blount tried to jump over the top on 2nd down. Great job not only with the initial hit from the front, but guys coming in from the side, grabbing the legs of LeGarrette Blount. The 3rd play is when Tom Brady lost the ball, and he said it was his fault. He said his center Andrews thought he was going straight ahead like Brady did in the first quarterback sneak 2 plays earlier, but Brady said, I went to the left, so it was my fault. He didn't know I went not the way we thought I was going to go. My fault, but they got the ball back, and they had one more play, and that was the fade to Gronk.
And so the fade to Gronk, which is the one that people were talking about through a lot of the night because there's a lot of contact in the end zone. It's Gronk against Cam Chancellor. Could you possibly ask for a better one-on-one, mano-a-mano matchup in the entire NFL right now than those two guys from the 1-yard line to decide the game? In the end, there's no call, Mike. Should there have been a flag?
Absolutely, positively not. And this play started before the snap even took place. And hopefully I'll break this one down a little bit later on the telestrator. It normally when you play, because what happens in those situations sometimes, if you're given too much room, instead of the fade, you get that quick back shoulder throw right over the goal line. Cam Chancellor gave Gronk all kind of room, and even Gronk said he gave me way more room than I thought he was going to give me. And Gronk's whole, you'll hear Gronk's line, I needed to get up on his toes as quick as I could. That means basically getting his grill. I'm 6'7", 6'6", 6'7". I'm taller than everybody, so I need to get up in him so I can then outjump him. So Gronk made an effort to run at him without even looking for the ball at first, and he initiated contact. He absolutely initiated the contact. There is no way you can make a call on that, and I think Cam really kind of messed that play up before the play even started by playing off of him a little bit.
Let's hear it. Here's Gronkowski after the game.
I mean, it didn't get called. It is what it is. If it's not a PI to the refs, then it's not PI to the refs, so play is what it is. Can't really change it. I mean, I've had problems in the past with that, last year, a couple times this year, but I'm not here to make excuses to say that was a PI. So I just want to we just lost the game. I want to give credit to the Seahawks. They played a good game. It was a well-fought 60 minutes game on both sides of the ball. But, I mean, I'm not trying to get into that discussion right now.
Good. I'm glad because really if you watch that thing, in one of the things that we have said we believe has been a major issue with ratings being down is too many flags on the field, and we certainly saw our share again yesterday. That was one where there's no way they should have thrown the flag. Zero question at all to throw that flag when that offensive player, a bigger offensive player, initiates the contact on the defensive player. So that was a perfect no call.
You make an interesting point. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Last year, over 3 million drivers switched to Progressive. Call it. Click today. Find out if you could save. We'll find out a lot when all of the television ratings from yesterday come in. The 1 o'clock slate of games. First of all, the College Saturday, and we'll work our way through all of this. The College Saturday, unless you were a fan of Clemson, Michigan, or Washington, the College Saturday was the best college football Saturday for football watching, not only of this year, but that I can remember in a long time. So that whets the appetite. Then on Sunday, the 1 o'clock slate of games, there were a ton of really good games with some sensational finishes. Two unbelievable, the Kansas City win and the Denver win were both, I mean, the stuff that you write books about. Then in that 4:30 spot, Pittsburgh-Dallas, which we're going to get to in a second, was one of the best. I thought actually was maybe the most entertaining game of the entire NFL season. And then it went right into Seattle-New England last night, which is as good a matchup as you could ask for in every way. So if the ratings yesterday don't reflect a significant uptick, then you'll have to start asking some real questions.
Yeah, you will, because it all came post-election coverage. Now, obviously, we know there are still things going on post-election with the protests and such around the country, but you know that constant, what's this state going to go? What's that state going to go? Where are the candidates now speaking today? That's all over with. So yeah, this was kind of that first standalone weekend for the NFL, and we talked already about starting with the Thursday game of Cleveland at Baltimore wasn't the greatest standalone game in the world to start with post-election, but you can't beat what's going on with the college football, especially Saturday, and some of the games we had Sunday. It was a great weekend.
To put a wrap on Seahawks-Patriots, it was New England's first loss with Tom Brady as their quarterback this year. They had been 4-0. It was also for Brady his first home game, throwing an interception but no touchdown since Week 15 of 2007. So the Seattle defense did a sensational job.
Yeah, they did a great job with no touchdowns. It was Garrett Blount with 3 rushing touchdowns. And the interception, I just didn't understand it. Brady did a great job scrambling around them, threw a long ball down the field to a receiver that was double covered. I was very surprised by that, and I'm sure not any more surprised than when Brady takes a look at it and realizes what he did. But just a bad decision by him for his first interception.
Meanwhile, Russell Wilson, 348 passing yards and 3 touchdowns all of them to Doug Baldwin, who has 3 games of 3 receiving touchdowns over the past 2 seasons. No other player has more than 1. So a huge win for Seattle as they, want to talk about an interesting week Seattle had. They play the Monday night game. Yeah. They get that crazy win against Buffalo. Pardon me. They then travel across the country to play another primetime game against mighty New England, and they find a way to get that win on the road. So that's big. That was a sensational football game last night. The game that preceded it, which was Pittsburgh and Dallas, again, for my money, was the most entertaining game of the NFL season. And our friends at AutoZone asked us to pick a player who was in the zone. Well, could you be any more in the zone than Ezekiel Elliott? Zeke Elliott in the zone, brought to you by AutoZone. When you get the right part or helpful advice you need, it helps you get in your zone. So stop into AutoZone the next time you or your car need a little something and let them help you get in the zone. Again, with AutoZone, Zeke Elliott yesterday, 21 rushes for 114 yards and 2 touchdowns, 2 catches for 95 yards and another touchdown. He goes over 1,000 rushing yards on the season. He's the 3rd player to run for 1,000 yards in his first 9 career games, joining Eric Dickerson and Adrian Peterson. And what was fascinating, and of course his last run of the night, was the long touchdown that ends it. He went untouched on all 3 of his touchdown runs on Sunday. Now, one of them, I believe Pittsburgh allowed him to score. I genuinely believe they allowed him to score that one right after the 2-minute warning, which was 100% the right thing to do. I thought that was exactly right, and it played out to be right, because then Ben got the ball and he did what he did. He went right down the field, fake spike, Antonio Brown touchdown.
Wow, yeah.
What a sensational back-and-forth football game that was.
Shades of Dan Marino on that one, and it was a fantastic fake, and then an even better, obviously, the throw was great. Yeah, I mean, this is, I don't even know what to tell you. This was by far the best game of the season so far. It was fantastic on both sides of the ball. You saw the stars shine brightly, even the young stars, but even the guys that had been there. Antonio Brown with 14 catches for 154 yards. Des Bryant, 6 catches for 116 yards. Jason Witten coming up with big catch after big catch, especially on that last drive. So it was the veterans, Ben Roethlisberger doing his thing as well. But then you have that dynamic duo rookie of Dak Prescott and Zeke Elliott, and we keep talking about the MVPs and the quarterbacks, and then we want to bring Zeke Elliott or Dak into the conversation. Maybe this should be the first year of an offensive line getting an MVP, because that line in front of him, while they did give up a couple of sacks, what they're doing overall, protecting Dak, and then with holes they're opening up for Zeke Elliott, who that's not taking away from Zeke Elliott, but watch the screen pass. Just one of the things where he went untouched, watch the 3 offensive linemen downfield all getting just enough of their guy to open up a hole so that Zeke Elliott can run untouched, and then he outruns the last defenders. They are working so well together, from, as I mentioned, Dez to Witten to that offensive line. These 2 rookies, you couldn't almost ask for better weapons around you and protection up front than they're getting right now, and it is all working incredibly well together right now.
Well, here's what it's adding up to. They've won 8 consecutive games. They've scored at least 24 points in all 8 of those games. The Dallas Cowboys, who have about as good a history from the time they came into the league, they're not an original team, but from the time they came into the league in the early 60s, they've been about as good as anybody. They've never done that before. They've never had an 8-game winning streak in which they've scored 24 points or more. Not with Roger Staubach as the quarterback, not with Troy Aikman as the quarterback, not with Tony Romo as the quarterback. They've done it now with Dak Prescott at the quarterback. And I tell you what, that kid stands in. On that last drive, and yes, you're right, the offensive line is great. But on that last drive where they had, they get the ball back with 40 seconds left or something like that? I think. But they had all their timeouts.
Had 42 seconds and 3 timeouts. I was watching it saying, well, that's all day.
Especially when they get the face mask. They've got a great kicker, so you're setting up for Bailey, because he is an enormously good kicker, and what a weapon that is to have. But how many times, Mike, on that drive did it look like the pocket was ready to break down, and Prescott did not break out running? He stood in there and got rid of the ball at the last second, and you're right, a lot of it felt like it was to Witten. When the money was on the line, he's finding the tight end, but he just stands in. For a rookie quarterback, that guy is tremendous.
I think that we go back to the preseason when we were talking about what we liked out of him, and it wasn't the stats. Again, because the stats, you're not going to go, oh, my God, those are the greatest stats ever, but they were pretty darn good yesterday. What was he, 22 of 32 for 319 yards? Pretty darn nice. but was his poise. That the fact, Greeny, that he has the legs and the athletic ability to move and help himself, yet he will stand in there. He'll definitely move, and that has helped him, but he will stand in there. He understands he understands the protection that he has. He understands it'll hold up, and he understands he needs to let the plays develop down the field.
So right after the game ended, and I retweeted it because I just thought it was so funny. Let me get it for you quickly here, because the question, of course, will continue about Romo. You saw Romo on the sideline in the sweatshirt yesterday, and apparently he's going to dress next week. And as soon as the game ended and the Cowboys won, Brian Billick tweeted, and I retweeted it because I thought it was so funny. And just like that, Tony Romo suffered a setback during his rehab and will be unavailable to play for at least another week, which I thought was very funny.
Absolutely hilarious.
That isn't the case, but even Jerry at this point is acknowledging you just can't mess with what they have going on.
The longer he plays like this, the more we have a chance to have another win. And everybody here wants to do only really one thing, is win. And there's nobody that would introduce any other issue or any other consideration other than do whatever it takes to win the game. So today, to be able to come out here with a win doesn't just obliterates any thought about any of the issues that you might have as to who's out on the field. This was a team that.
I hope you could hear him, because there's obviously a lot of noise out there behind him. The bottom line of it is they're all getting one over to Dak, and how could you not be? If you listen, the most significant voice on this, because he doesn't have any horse in the race. You can listen to Jerry Jones, you can listen to Stephen Jones, you can listen to Jason Garrett. Prescott saying the right things. Watch the games when Aikman is doing them, because Aikman repeatedly on the telecast yesterday said, you don't find this kind of chemistry very often. What they have going on is something that is so elusive, so hard to find in football, that when you find it, you've got to hold on with both hands. I think Aikman is trying to tell you, without saying it out loud, because he's so connected to the franchise, you would be out of your mind at this point to take Dak Prescott off the field.
Well, you would, and I'm somewhat even amazed it's a conversation anymore. Let's understand where this has gone. From preseason when Romo got hurt and Dak started playing well, there were those that immediately jumped on Trent Dilfer was one of them, said Romo's not getting his job back, and there were others like me and others who waited and waited and waited, and I think you could go along the way when more people kind of fell off, right? It was one more week, that's still Romo's job. Another week, it's still going to be Romo's job. Another week, Dak's looking pretty good here, and they're on a bit of a roll. Another week, okay, well, maybe Romo isn't coming back, to the point where now it almost shouldn't even be a discussion. I mean, I think, and I would imagine that's got to be the discussion in Dallas. I would imagine they've already had discussions in Dallas about this, and I think as hard it is for a player to understand it, a guy like Tony Romo, because, anybody you try and put yourself in that situation, you're the quarterback of this team. You have been the quarterback of this team, and you feel when you come back from injury, you're still the quarterback of this team. But you can't deny what's going on right now, and you just can't kind of interrupt that right now. And it's a hard situation, but I think it's reality as well. You can't mess with it, and I can't believe there are any people left on they should still play Romo when Romo's ready to play bandwagon. I would be stunned, outside of maybe Tony Romo's family, would be the only ones that would do that.
Trying to remember who it was. I think it was Brian Billick who said that he would still go back to Romo. Someone said it on our show in the last week or two, and I have to believe even that is sort of slipping by the wayside.
It has to be. The last hanger-oners of that, I think, have to have fallen off, because it's been a kind of a week-by-week thing.
Look, here's the single best thing I can tell you about watching Dak Prescott. You forget that he's a rookie when the game is going on. Yeah. That last drive, he's a rookie quarterback. I mean, look at the other rookies. Look at even like a guy like Wentz, who's been very good. Wentz has been, you have to say, all things considered, he's been very good. He makes big mistakes. Mm-hmm. Like, he makes these plays where you're like, what happened yesterday? He scooted a fumble between his legs.
Right.
But that's just a crazy thing.
Yeah.
But like big mistakes. Rookie quarterbacks make big mistakes. where are the big mistakes that Prescott makes? In the biggest of spots, on the road, in front of the biggest crowd ever to attend a professional football game in the city of Pittsburgh. At least that's what they said on the telecast. He was flawless in that fourth quarter. I mean, flawless.
Yeah, stood in there, and he throws a very accurate throws, out routes that the ball is thrown out with wit, and the ball is thrown away from the defender. You know, the throw he has down, the back shoulder throw to Dez Bryant is ridiculous.
That one that he threw to Bryant, where Bryant sort of also curled in from the left side, and he threw it way before the break. That was a great play in the fourth quarter.
I mean, he's like you said, not only not making the mistake, but he's making the big time play, and you get aided there by a face mask. They had missed a face mask on Cole Beasley. They called it rightfully so when Jason Witten, but then it didn't matter when you bust that run straight up the gut for the final touchdown, the 32-yard run.
And then there's Zeke Elliott. Now, you know I have fallen head over heels in love with Derek Carr.
Yeah.
But we are a, ever-changing, adapting by the moment kind of a league. Tom Brady all of a sudden loses a game at home in which he throws a pick and no touchdowns. Derek Carr has a bye week, so out of sight, out of mind. Mm-hmm. And Ezekiel Elliott yesterday is the best player on the field by far in any game in the National Football League. Mike, I think the conversation about Zeke Elliott for MVP right now gains a little bit of momentum.
Yeah, it does. Listen, Matt Ryan, they went to Philadelphia and they lost, and he didn't have those unbelievably. Julio Jones had
Julio Jones could feel free to hang on to a football every now and
you're
again.
Not kidding. I mean, without question. So that not their normal game there, because Matt Ryan, from the statistical standpoint, he was up there in the MVP race. And as you mentioned, out of sight, out of mind with Derek Carr. Tom Brady has the game that he has. He is playing against an excellent defense in Seattle, but they are at home, and he's Tom Brady. So I agree with you.
And the Cowboys are 8-1.
They're 8-1.
They have the best record in the league.
Zeke Elliott has over 1,000 yards rushing. Over
and how many receiving? I mean, where does he? Because in yesterday's game alone, he had 95 receiving yards, and he had 3 touchdowns yesterday, 2 on the ground, 1 in the air, 114 rushing yards, 95 receiving yards. He's way over 200 scrimmage yards yesterday.
Oh yeah.
What does he have receiving?
As far as receiving, he has is it
250? I'm being told.
18 receptions, 250 yards, and 1 touchdown. I actually thought he had more catches than that. But
okay, but
18
even so,
catches for
that's over 1,300 yards from scrimmage.
I think the rookie rushing record is Dickerson at over 1,800 yards rushing.
It is.
So I listen. I obviously, yes. To answer your question, yes, he absolutely has to be in the conversation for it, and he'll buy, like I said, his old line some really nice gifts for that. For how they're helping him, but he is fan. We all knew he was going to be. We all said top 5 in total yards because he can catch the ball out of the backfield and run. But he's been doing fantastic, and so we keep talking about the rookie wall. If anybody's going to hit that at some point, they're getting close to, in a couple of weeks, to where their season would normally be over. In college football, that's when you see the rookies hit the wall, but. We'll see. Alfred Morris is getting some carries as well to get him some rest every now and then. But, man, he is unbelievable to watch. So is Dak, and this team, and I'll say it again, this defense, they did give up 30 points. I do give you that. But the defense is playing better than I thought. And Pittsburgh also took a little air out of your balloon about going for 2 all the time. But that didn't work well for him yesterday.
It was a bad day for that. The Steelers, though, giving up, they hadn't allowed more than 24 points in a game all season. And look, when Ben and Brown get going, they're tough for anybody to stop.
Yeah, they are.
Now, Dallas is for real. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, jam-packed today with Tommy Waddle, Lewis Riddick, Heather Dinich, breaking down the college, Brock Hewer, Donovan McNabb. If you miss anything, you can check it all out later on the ESPN app. You can listen on demand to any and all hours. And most importantly, the winning word today, the first time we're doing the word today is at 7:20. So 1 hour from right now. Last couple of days for this contest. We want you to win. We want you to come with us to the national championship game. We will give you the word 1 hour from right now. Be listening or watching at 7:20 Eastern with us here on Mike and Mike. Coming up next, after the 3 huge upsets in college football, where does everything rest? I can tell you exactly. Everyone's asking questions. I can give you the answer. Next, after a word from AutoZone, Mike, where they do everything they can to put you in your zone, whether it's getting you the right part or giving you the helpful advice you need, they'll always help you get there.
And now our friends at AutoZone are really helping you get there, and that means on the road with us to the national championship game. Just be listening or watching. As Greeny said, the time we'll give it this morning is about an hour from now. This just goes on for a couple of more days. Your chance to win the Mike and Mike at the College Football Playoff Sweepstakes, again presented by our friends at AutoZone. You could be joining us in Tampa for the title game. Thanks again to our friends at AutoZone. They're always going to help you get there with thousands of parts in stock, helpful people to guide you. They've got everything you need to tackle your auto maintenance and repair projects with confidence. So get in the zone, AutoZone. Visit Mike'sRoadToTheCFP.com for the official rules. That's Mike'sRoadToTheCFP.com. We hope you're traveling with us to the national championship game. We're back after this, Mike and Mike.
Russell under center. Going to take one more snap. Puts his head down. Gets in behind his center. Baby. That is the ball game. The clock ticks down. 3, 2, 1. The Seahawks have won in New England. They've beaten the 7-1 Patriots by a final score of 31-24. What a comeback. What a tough, hard-nosed game by these Seahawks to beat the Patriots. Man, oh man alive.
That's great enthusiasm on
Sure
710 ESPN Seattle. It was a good game all the way around, and in the end it comes down to the 1-yard line. This time it's New England with the ball, and again, like the last time these teams met, they couldn't get it in. This time it's Seattle that gets the win. So talking about it all morning long. Elsewhere, Jerry Jones says Tony Romo will be active next week as the backup to Dak Prescott. Again, Dallas has won 8 straight games with Prescott at quarterback and scored 24 points in all of them. They had never done that in their history. Elsewhere, the 9th annual college basketball tip-off marathon begins today. There'll be 13 games broadcast across ESPN2 and ESPNU beginning at 6 Eastern. And SportsCenter with Mike and Mike is brought to you by AutoZone.
We're giving you a chance to be on the road with us to the national championship game. Just be listening every weekday for your chance to win the Mike and Mike on the road to the College Football Playoff Sweepstakes presented by AutoZone. Visit Mike'sRoadToTheCFP.com for all the official rules.
Oh, yeah, the college football Saturday. It was something we hadn't seen in 31 years, the numbers 2, 3, and 4 teams falling on the same day. And the difference in this one was one of those wasn't an upset. One of those was number 1, Iowa, beating number 2, Michigan.
Exactly right.
By the way, the quarterback of Michigan then was Jim Harbaugh. This time it was Iowa beating Michigan, but it was a colossal upset. Pittsburgh over Clemson, Mike, which was an epic game. Epic. And then USC, if you ask me, watching that night, of those 6 teams, who's the best team? If you just landed from Mars, you would have said USC was the best team on the field that night.
Sam Darnold, they went to him at quarterback. They're playing some of the best ball right now. They always have great athletes, but they are putting it together right now. And Washington, who I had been lauding as a really, really good team to watch out for, SC just had charge of that game from the beginning. They were the better team that night. They're playing some really, really good ball right now.
So, I posted this yesterday, came from ESPN Stats and Information. If you had bet $100 on a parlay of Pittsburgh, Iowa, and USC to win, $100 bet would have paid $47,090.
That'd have been nice.
What does it all add up to? I can give you the FPI numbers in a minute, but first let's go to Greg McElroy, who does games every single weekend for you and does a terrific job with those and analyzes the SEC and other things on the SEC network, and he joins us this morning. So after the whole thing, Greg, obviously we'll find out tomorrow night what the committee thinks, but let's start with what you think. After all the dust settled from a crazy Saturday, we know Alabama's going to be number 1. What should happen behind them?
Well, it's obviously quite crazy. In the playoff era, it doesn't necessarily matter when you lose. It just matters whether or not you lost at all. So expect those teams that you just listed. Clemson, I think they're going to drop 1 spot from 2 to 3. Ohio State, I think, moves up into the 2 spot. At number 4, I think that'll be Louisville. Louisville has played pretty well, consistent. And then at number 5, Michigan, because this was really the first true road test. And the offense stymied, and they really, I know they lost by 1 on the last-second field goal, but that was a less-than-inspiring performance from the Wolverines.
If basically all 3 of these teams losing, all 3 still can control whether they get to their conference championship game. So let's play it out that way. Say they all still get to their conference championship game and all win their conference championship game. Do you still look at a team like Washington as a 1-win Pac-12 team that could be on the outside looking in after that?
They could very easily, and I think obviously in large part due to Louisville. Now Louisville plays Houston this week. Houston's 8-2, excuse me, and that's obviously a pretty good football team from the Group of Five. That would only boost their resume, and then they play Kentucky, who should be a bowl team in the final week of the regular season. So Louisville is the key cog, and I think personally most guys that are looking at and evaluating Louisville and Washington, they would say Louisville would win on a neutral field. That's, at the end of the day, should be the most important factor. Would Louisville beat Washington? I say they would, so therefore, even if Washington wins the Pac-12 championship game, beats Washington State in the Apple Cup, beats USC or Colorado in the Pac-12 championship, they still might be on the outside looking in with a 12-1 record.
But here's where it all gets crazy. As a consequence of Michigan's loss, if Ohio State beats Michigan, which they are favored to do, and Penn State wins out, it is not Ohio State or Michigan that wins their half of the Big Ten. It will be Penn State. According to FPI, Penn State is now the favorite to win the Big Ten East. So if Penn State beats out, if Ohio State beats Michigan, just do the math in your head. Michigan would have 2 losses. Ohio State and Penn State would each have 1, and Penn State beat them head up. So Penn State goes and plays for the Big Ten title. Greg, if that happens, then what happens?
Oh, it's going to be crazy. By the way, you mentioned Penn State, the favorite in the Big Ten East. I would hope so. They play Rutgers this week, and then a 1-win Big Ten Michigan State team, who got their first Big Ten win this past week against Rutgers. So they should win the Big Ten East. That's when it gets really tricky. Now, the committee's always said the 4 best teams. Everyone knows, or at least I assume, that Ohio State is one of the 4 best teams as it sits right now. So they would be in. I think no problem about it. What would get real interesting, however, is Wisconsin is probably going to be right there around 6. They have 2 losses to Ohio State and to Michigan, both very close games, very competitive football games. Penn State beat Ohio State. They would play in the Big Ten championship game possibly. What would the Big Ten get a second team in, the winner of the Big Ten championship game with 2 losses? If, in fact, Washington State were to win the Pac-12, which is a real possibility, or Colorado wins the Pac-12, or USC in the Pac-12. So it's going to get very dicey when it comes to, do you include a 2-loss team that wins their conference championship like a Wisconsin, like a Penn State, over a 1-loss champion or a 1-loss at-large team like Louisville, who a lot of people respect but did not win their conference championship. So we hope for chaos as people that love radio, and I love you guys, listen to y'all every morning. You love chaos if you're in this industry, and that's exactly what we have.
No, absolutely. And I just want to make one thing clear in case it wasn't. If Michigan beats Ohio State, none of that happens.
None of Michigan goes.
Michigan beat Penn State. Yeah. So if Michigan only has 1 loss, they beat out Penn State and they go.
They go.
But what we're talking about is Penn State going if Ohio State beats Michigan, and that game is in Columbus, and Ohio State is favored.
Greg, it would be difficult, don't you? If Penn State ends up winning the Big Ten, even with 2 losses, would it be difficult for the committee to put in an Ohio State team instead of them?
Right.
Knowing Penn State beat them? I mean, I know Penn State would have 1 more loss on Ohio State, but how wacky would that look? Yes, we're going to bypass the Big Ten champ in Penn State and put in a team with 1 loss in Ohio State who, lost to the Big Ten champ.
That was their loss, yeah.
I mean, I just can't see that.
It would be wild. I mean, you also have to look at the entire body of work, and Ohio State, with a win at Oklahoma, which is looking better and better every single week, a win at Wisconsin, a win against Tulsa, who is 7-3. I mean, Ohio State's entire body of work, I think, would outweigh what we've seen from Penn State to this point. And then you look at that game in particular. Ohio State, back-to-back road games, had just played an emotional overtime game at Camp Randall at Wisconsin. They have 2 kicks blocked, 1 punt, 1 field goal. That field goal was returned to the house in pretty crazy fashion. Not taking anything away from Penn State, believe me. But I still think most people that evaluate those 2 teams would view Ohio State as the better team, even though the head-to-head wouldn't necessarily tell the whole story there.
That would be the single most amazing thing of all time.
Really would.
If they beat them head-to-head and they win the conference.
And don't kid you.
And Ohio State goes ahead of them. Greg, I think you have solidified exactly what we thought. No one knows anything. Chaos at this moment reigns supreme. Thanks a million, my friend. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, guys.
That's Greg McElroy from the SEC Network. And I can tell you exactly what the analytics say.
Right.
Now, what the analytics say and what will wind up happening are not necessarily the same thing. But I'll tell you those. Tommy Waddle in our studio coming up next. All around the NFL we go. And again, the most important thing, winning word in 40 minutes. Winning word, 7:20 Eastern. You could be on your way with us to Tampa. That's after this word from LegalZoom. Mike, did you accomplish everything you set out to do this year? LegalZoom reminds us there's still time.
Yep, say you'd like to finally start that dream business, but you're a little unsure whether to incorporate or form an LLC. Maybe you have a great invention, but no idea how to protect you, it, and yourself. LegalZoom's network of independent attorneys available in 48 states, well, they can help without billing by the hour, since LegalZoom is not a law firm. Take control of your future at LegalZoom.com. For special savings, make sure you enter Mike at checkout. That's at LegalZoom.com. Back after this, Mike and Mike.
Cintas, getting you ready for the workday.
Mike and Mike in our Sports Center is brought to you by Lowe's. Get your home in shape for the season with huge savings right now at Lowe's, where you'll find great deals on all your winter needs. So hurry into your neighborhood store today. Make your home happy all season long. Touchdown Tommy Waddle has made his way into our studio. Hosts afternoons on ESPN 1000 in Chicago. Covers football all week long for us on ESPN. And we were just talking during the break. We'll get to all the NFL action in a second, but about all this college stuff.
Yeah.
And, Tom, you turned to Golick and said this proves why they need 8 teams. Mm-hmm. And listen, here's the only thing I'll say is the reason all of this is so incredibly compelling, the reason all these games were so remarkable, the reason we have so much to talk about is because we don't have 8 teams. If you expanded this to 8 teams...
Completely wrong.
Go ahead.
You're completely wrong.
Tell me why.
Because you start at the 2 lost teams that go from number 7 to number 15. Mm. You would have incredible chaos as well, going for 6, 7, and 8.
Yeah, you've got more.
Which ones? Tell me who's 15.
Who's 15?
Yeah.
It doesn't. It's Utah.
Okay.
Utah,
so
Virginia.
Have you seen the schedule they've played? I mean, my point is, are we dying to see all those teams in this discussion?
You're dying to see a
We're
top
talking
8
about the very best teams in the country.
You're dying to see a top 8.
If you just wanted a top 8, then Louisville would be in already.
You're completely wrong on this.
Left to talk
the
about.
battles would be great. No, what are you talking about? There'd be plenty to. You got 15 teams you go to with 2 losses. You can only take 8.
Mom, the kids are fighting
the
again.
Battles would be fantastic going to 8. You just only want it to be at the top.
Michigan would be in. Ohio State would be in. Alabama would be in. They wouldn't even have to play the rest of their games. Louisville would be in. The winner of Penn State, Wisconsin, if that's the way this thing goes,
Clemson
would be in. Clemson would be in. My point is...
Your point is you're still fighting for more
all
spots.
All of these things that were so endlessly compelling, college football is what it is because those games mean everything.
Yeah, and there'd be plenty of games that still mean stuff.
Yeah, they still mean stuff.
Plenty of games
and
that
NFL
still
games mean
to
stuff.
Get into the playoffs. Which is what you're trying to do. You're so hung
up. And then you become a postseason sport just like all the other sports.
Ridiculous. Oh, my God, you could be more wrong.
You're choosing drama over equity. And I use the term equity meaning just let's get it right. I don't think it would be too watered down if you had 8 teams. And I'm not just saying that now because I live by one simple kind of philosophy, more football, more better. So if you get 8 teams
so
into
does the
equation,
NFL. And that leads us to Thursday nights and Sunday mornings. You know what? Eventually, more is not better. At some point, what you have is working because everything is an event. Everything matters. Once you get to more football, more, how's that working for the other sports where there's more and more and more?
Well, I could have lived without Thursday night football, that's for sure. That's too much football. More football, not more better. But look, I don't think 8 teams is too much. All of the other different sports in collegiate athletics, they don't go with a 4-team playoff, do they? And they get along with it.
And that's why
fine.
College basketball, wake me up when we get to March.
Well,
when March starts,
and 8 are a little different.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. A lot different.
Yeah, they're markedly different. It's actually 30-something in college basketball because a lot of those are automatic bids that are just there to round out the field and make it fun. Anyway, the point of it is this. Let me tell you what the FPI tells you on this, and then we'll get Tommy over to the NFL here. But the 4 teams right now rank in the top 5 of the 2 most important categories, according to our analytics, which is strength of record, which to me is the most important thing, and then best. I mean, FPI decides who they think is best, eye test, etc. There are 4 teams. So according to FPI, these should be the 4 teams who are top 4 tomorrow night. Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, and Louisville. Those should be the 4 teams. Let's see if that's the way it winds up going.
Yeah, I think the other one battling in could be Michigan in that, but I think there's a good chance. I think for sure the 3 are going to be Alabama, Ohio State, and Clemson. And that 4th team, is it going to be Louisville? Is it going to be Michigan? Well, I think Washington is dropped out of that. So I think that would be the 2 teams, and I think it would be Louisville.
You have a thought, Tommy? Can I get you to the NFL?
You can do whatever you'd like. I just think that in most years there are scenarios where teams 5, 6, 7, and 8 could play with the top 4 teams. So I just think it would be more equitable if you had more teams involved. And don't tell me that you're taking the kids away from the classroom. For the love of everything good and pure. I mean, that's just a cop-out. I mean, we could make this happen, shorten the regular season, do something. Please don't hide behind that argument.
I agree. I hate education. Tom Waddle.
I'm not saying that.
The Straight Talk brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, half the cost. All right, Tom. Zeke Elliott.
He was twisting my words, Golick.
Zeke Elliott is the most valuable player in the National Football League. True or false?
I'll say true. There will be some people in Foxborough at the moment that will tell you that's not the case. But Zeke Elliott's what makes that Dallas Cowboy offense go. And there's a residual that the defense benefits from because of how good he is and how good that running game is. They're only on the field for 27 minutes per game. I think as impressive as Dak Prescott and Zeke Elliott have been, play not just outstanding football, but clean football. It's hard to play clean football when you're being led by rookies. But as good as they have been offensively, that defense has been significantly better than I could have ever imagined. And again, some of it goes back to them not being on the field for 35 minutes per game. They're out there for about 27 minutes per game, but they have played much better than I thought that they would play.
Yeah, so. I think we focus on Dak and Zeke, and with every right to do that because they're playing extremely well. But I think we not only thought that defense would be bad, we thought they would be horrifically bad because,
the 2 top pass rushers were suspended.
All their pass rushers are suspended. Sean Lee is doing what he does. He's tackling everything that moves, and they're playing way better than a lot of people thought they would. So they deserve a lot of credit on that side of the ball.
And Zeke's not just a running back. I mean, Zeke's going to pick up in pass protection. He's going to be a viable option in the passing game, as we saw yesterday with the screen pass that went for 80 or plus yards.
Yeah.
So total player. And it's amazing to see just how quickly 2 young players got acclimated to this game. I didn't have any questions about Zeke Elliott. I thought he would be outstanding from day one. But to see what Dak is doing is amazing.
Because that was unexpected. I mean, Zeke, we knew when he got picked high was going to get inserted in there, and I think we all thought top 5 in total yards and offense. So and even saying that, I think, Green, you admit he's still exceeding expectations on that. But Dak is definitely a surprise because nobody expected him to be.
In a broad statement, I would say, because I've been one that had been critical of the product on the field for the first half of the season, I needed that yesterday. I needed that football. I needed Dallas and Pittsburgh to play that way. I needed Seattle and New England to play that game last night. I feel better about my favorite sport today than I have in a long time.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the early games, too, you had some great finishes. You had some really compelling storylines. As I said to Mike earlier, I'll be curious to see what the ratings tell. Because you can't ask for a whole lot more from an NFL Sunday than you got yesterday. Let's find out if everybody watched. We continue in a moment. Louis Riddick is on his way in studio. Tommy stays here. And the winning word in 25 minutes. Don't miss it.
Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans proudly supports Mike and Mike. Rocket Mortgage brings the mortgage process into the 21st century. Forget about digging through stacks of paperwork. This completely online process lets you safely share your bank statements and pay stubs with a touch of a button. Using your phone or tablet, you can get approved for purchase or refinance in just a few minutes. Get a custom mortgage solution at your own pace, whenever and wherever you want. So if you're looking to refinance or buy a home, check out Rocket Mortgage today at quickenloans.com/Mikes.
Equal housing lender licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
Hey, basketball fans, I'm Cassidy Hubbard. On the latest NBA Lockdown podcast, me and Amin El-Hassan, along with producer Josh, discuss, is James Harden the real MVP this season? Are you a believer in him? Download the podcast.